Chapter 9. Andre left work on his lunch break and found a message from Mohsen waiting for him. He was not surprised. Mohsen's letters to him had increased since he left the family home in Courbevoie, running after his heart. Andre opened the letter and read. Dear Andre, I still wake up to her singing, but this morning something big happened. While I was near the window, listening to it secretly, there was a knock on the door, and the washing machine brought me my clean clothes and presented me with the bill, 10 francs. Then an idea flashed into my mind that I liked, and I hope you like it, so I took the paper and wrote at the bottom of it, Madam, I do not have any money for the watch, so if you would be so kind as to pay the bill for me, I will never forget this hand from you, and I thank you very much in advance. With sincere respect, your neighbor number 48. I pushed the paper into the washing machine and placed it in the lower room, where my neighbor, Mademoiselle S., lived. The washing machine actually started, and I was still shaking anxiously. Do you think it would stop working for me? How ashamed you would be if you refused. And if you accept, what is the meaning of this? I must hasten to give you good news. The washerwoman came back to me after a while, saying with a smile, Mademoiselle S., my neighbor, paid immediately without a word. What do you say about all this? Improver. Andre smiled, folded the letter, lit a cigarette and smoked a little, then took out a piece of paper and wrote. Dear Mohsen, what do I say about all this? I say, my promise to lovers is to always appear before girls with an appearance of grace, ease, and prosperity, and to at least be the creditors when necessary, but you have reversed the situation, and you have become indebted to your temptress with everything, that is, with the heart and with the bill of account. The issue of you resorting to borrowing from Mademoiselle S., and when the knowledge between you becomes closer, so bold. I am very surprised by this incident, and I see in it the dawn of a new era in the history of love. Andre. Days passed after that, and the girl met the boy, sometimes at the hotel door and sometimes in the elevator, and there was nothing strange about that, as they were together in the dormitory. But the strange thing is that since she paid the bill on his behalf, he no longer accepts it. That was the turnout she had seen from him, and he no longer greeted her except a brief greeting. When the elevator brought them together, he was kneeling and did not want to speak or make a gesture indicating concern for her matter. He was the one who was expected to take the initiative to thank her for her generous kindness. He did not thank her, and in fact he never referred to what had happened with a mention or a hint. Susie was alone in her room one evening, and she thought a little about this strange boy. Is he an Oriental, a savage, who does not know manners or decency? But the matter itself is too simple to require knowledge of etiquette or propriety, and that boy cannot be ignorant, but rather it is intentional behavior. Why? This is what the girl was not guided to. This boy is eccentric. This is all she can understand. The week had barely ended when Andre received this message. Dear Andre. Now, the time has come for me to repay my debt, and it is not appropriate for me to return 10 francs to her. Rather, it is better for me to give her a gift. What do you think my gift to her should be? Sign me up quickly. Improver. The Frenchman quickly sent the answer. Dear Mohsen. All of Paris was created only for women, and the whole business of Paris is in the gifts that are given to women. All you have to do, my friend, is to walk a little in any of the streets of Paris. You will find dozens of shops offering whatever your friend desires, including handbags, powder boxes, hats, socks, perfumes, and flowers. We have previously advised you of this kind and you did not accept the advice. Andre. Mohsen read this phrase and repeated like the addressee, without conviction, handbags, powder boxes, flowers, and perfumes. Meaningless things, you are a fool, Monsieur Andre. Then he tore up the letter, put the black hat on his head, and went down the road, wandering all day long through the streets of Paris. He thinks and searches for the gift without entering a store, or directing his eyes to the face of a store, as he is only accustomed to looking at the directions of the bookstores. His foot led him by chance, in the end, to the bird market on the right bank of the Seine River. And he heard the voice of a small parrot, calling to passers-by with its whistle and slurred words. Mohsen raised his gaze and thought for a moment, then he entered the shop immediately and bought the parrot. He came out carrying a cage, emitting whistles and noises, and walked with it in the manner of a victor who had conquered what he had lost. But he did not take a few steps on the road, until he found the cage in his hand followed by stray cats and dogs, and when he saw him, he was carrying the parrot and the neighborhood dogs were behind him. It has begun to attract the attention of passers-by. He was afraid that the poor and the young would gather around him, so he rented a car that took him and a gift to the hotel. As soon as Mohsen went to his room, he quickly took off his clothes, and sat with his parrot all night, staying up all night, teaching him words and phrases, until he was satisfied with this little student. So he put a thin rope around the neck of his cage, opened its window, and lowered the cage into space until it landed at the girl's checkpoint. Then he started talking to him. Hafez al-Shirazi's monologue to the parrot in his poem, in which he said, "You parrot, you speaker of riddles, forever keep your feathers bright as rubies, and your heart overflowing with joy. Oh, what luck! Pour rose water on our faces and do not reveal to the sober the secrets of ecstasy. Yes, wisdom is true wealth, but how much is it worth besides the look of love?" Susie woke up in the morning and went to her window, singing as usual. She had barely opened it when she saw herself in front of a parrot in a cage. She was astonished. Then she saw the hanging rope, and realized where it had landed from, so she raised her eyes to the upper floor, and the boy was in his window, smiling at her. As if he was waiting, he greeted her in the morning, and she responded with a smile, then pointed to the cage, saying, "Who is this for?" "For you." "For me?" "Thank you, sir, but why?" "This is what I was able to offer you, in recognition of your kindness. I hope you accept it from me." "How beautiful this parrot is." "What is his name?" "His name is Mohsen." "Improver?" The girl had barely uttered this name when the parrot whistled and shouted, "I love you! I love you! I love you!" Susie laughed and said, "Wow! Who taught him these words?" The boy immediately replied, "No one." There was a look in his eyes. "That's all." The girl smiled at this answer and said, "I thank you again, monsieur. Would you allow me to introduce myself to you? Even if progress from this high window is not called progress, it would be more correct for me to say, to introduce myself to you." The girl laughed and said, "Of course I am pleased with that. However, I cannot guarantee that you will reach my window safely, so say your name alone now, it is enough." The boy said, "My name is Mohsen." She looked at him with a look of surprise and said, "Like a parrot?" "Yes. I am honored to have my name like your parrot's name." She smiled and did not answer. Mohsen thought that he had spoken to her more than he should, and it seemed to him that perhaps he had burdened her, and he feared that he would speak too much, so a gesture appeared to erase this smile from her lips, so he quickly greeted her with a slight gesture, and moved away from the window, disappearing for a moment from her sight. Then he sat at his desk and contemplated. Wow. What does sitting mean? And what is meditation? She was in front of him, and they had a conversation. Why did he leave her? Shouldn't he get up from his seat and go back to her? But her window was closed.